Play fake by McCamey. Looking downtown. Touchdown! Basket! 47 yards for the score.
Here's what they're in 22 personnel, 2 backs, 2 tight ends. And it's McCamey to basket. That's it. Now watch. Gordon does a pretty good job. He doesn't get his hands on him. He fell that little stutter. I like what he's doing, but he's got to keep his eyes on the receiver. As soon as his head.
2 backs and 2 tight ends.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Ladies and gentlemen, from La Casa de los Lobos, the Pit, here at the University of New Mexico, let's get ready to rumble!
Hopefully you could hear oh gosh. Hopefully you could hear the triple hey there. Hope everybody's doing all right. My name is Ryan Tamori. Welcome to the Pit Press Live. Very, 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 very busy show today. Very good weekend for the one, the only, the University of New Mexico Athletic Department. We'll get to that in a bit. Before I bring on my co-host for the day and usual suspect on the show, I want to thank some of our sponsors: Dulce River Bakery Coffee, affordable solar, Turquoise Desert Tap Room, Hydro Bar, Affordable service, heating, plumbing, and air conditioning for your HVAC needs in Albuquerque and the Rio Rancho area. Affordable service has been in business in New Mexico since 1986, and it's still locally owned. During that time, they've served more than 40,000 customers, providing complete residential and light commercial HVAC services, including heating, cooling, electrical, and plumbing. Affordable service takes pride in their staff and their commitment to the Albuquerque and Rio Rancho community. I want to throw it to my one of the usual suspects joining the show. He's been a Lobo fan since 1970, and he is the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs. His name is Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, how you doing?
You know what, Ryan? Great. It's a great weekend to be a Lobo. A doubleheader win on Friday, and really excited about both teams winning. I was able to watch the football game and listen to the basketball game. So, and came back home yesterday. My wife had recorded the basketball game, got to watch that. So, really exciting win.
Before we dabble into that, our guest today, kind of a shorter show than what I've been doing on Mondays. Ned James, you all know him, and I think everybody loves him. Ed and I love him, and I've appreciated Ed for introducing me to Ned. I had heard the name many a times, and then last year finally got to know him. Former UNM quarterback, and he's on the Lobo Radio Network with the one, the only JJ Buck from on UNM football pregame. Halftime, postgame, lost my train of thought there. He will be joining us to talk about UNM's 21-16 win over San Diego State. But before we do that, and Ed, I will throw it to you. The UNM men's basketball team on Friday night in Henderson, Nevada, defeated, at the time, number 22 ranked UCLA. They're not 22 anymore. St. John's for the week has slid into that spot, and we will get into that down the road. They do have a game against Texas A&M, Corpus Christi. My Islanders from the last couple of years, they made back-to-back tournaments. They won the Southland, I believe. A lot of fun to watch. And, of course, Isaac Mushila transferred from there to UNM. UNM defeats UCLA 72-64 on Friday night in Henderson, Nevada. I was there, but Ed, you listened to the game. You said you rewatched the game. I wanted your thoughts on what many and I thought would not be a win, but they have dominantly and convincingly flown back to Albuquerque with a record of 2-0. Your thoughts?
Well, you know what? I was one of the ones that didn't predict a win. I didn't think this early in the season that they were ready to beat UCLA, and UCLA, a very good squad. You know, they've got a good team and several McDonald's All-Americans. And to be honest with you, I didn't think, especially after Nicholls State on Monday, New Mexico did win that game, but I thought their defense was lacking. It was a win, but I wasn't sure they were ready to take on a ranked team on a neutral court with all the new players that they had. But if you go back, and I think you said it yourself, Dent, 17 points, 8 assists, 9 turnovers, which is unusual, you know. But I talked to a good friend of mine today, and he said a lot of those were just guys, a misread, drop here and a drop there, not throwing it out of bounds, 20 feet in the stands, anything like that. 9 turnovers still isn't good. And Donovan Dent said after the game, they asked him about it, and he said he had 18 family members there, and they jumped on him about his turnovers. No praise for splitting double teams, driving to the basket, dishing off, and they're going to tease him a little bit. You know, they're going to get on him about that. But I thought, I've watched Lobo basketball since 1970, and if you mentioned the Lobo point guards of the past, the greats, Petey Gibson, Doris Gary, the late Darryl McGee, the late Greg Brown, the late Kelvin Scarborough, Phil Smith. This young man is definitely going to be in that kind of company, and that's elite company. If you I thought Eric Moulton wrote a great article today, and the way he controlled the game, and then UNM's defense, and we talked about that, rotating, hedging screens, preventing the ball reversals, stealing the ball, and then 21 points off of 21 UCLA turnovers. So Mick Cronin, he lamented that afterward. He said he thought New Mexico set the tone. They did. But I got to tell you one thing, and this is just honesty. Okay, this is just me being honest. I'm listening. You know, Jeff Symbieta and Hunter Green did a great job on the broadcast. But I'm thinking to myself, okay, when is the shoe going to drop? You know, I keep thinking that, and it's not fair. I shouldn't have thought that because New Mexico wire to wire. And then when Donovan Dent, went out of the game, and he slipped on that wet spot, and you saw it, and then I saw it yesterday. Looked kind of bad. It's like, and you were at the game, Ryan. And when I listened to it afterward, I told my wife, I said, listen to these Lobo fans, man, taking over the Pit West like they did Thomas and Mack. They took that place over. But Donovan Dent came in, and I thought the good thing was he came in and scored. So I don't think that knee was hurting him. But he said afterward, they're going to have to keep an eye on it. Nolan, they went small in the second half. Borvichian, they sat him out in the second half. He had a good first half, but they went small. And CJ Nolan, man, 13 points. You asked me before the game, what does he need to do? Keep shooting. He did. I thought True Washington's offense wasn't there, but he stole the ball 5 times. That's important. So I thought their small lineup really killed UCLA. The other thing I noticed, too, is that off of a made basket, when UCLA scored, they bring the ball in really quick. And so they couldn't trap him. They had a hard time keeping the ball out of Dan's hands. When you're an opposing, look at that layup there. When you're an opposing coach, you're like, let's keep the ball out of his hands. Let's double team him. Let's trap him. He split double teams. Once you do that consistently, it's very hard to come with the double team. So I thought Dan's performance was great. The other thing I got to mention was Nelly Jr. Joseph. Coach Pitino said he's one of the top bigs in the country. And for Coach Pitino to say that, I think that's pretty big. Another thing that one of my friends mentioned today, and I don't know if you remember this, but last year he had a hard time kind of catching passes in traffic, and he's been better about it this year. He dropped some passes last year in traffic, and him and Dent are on the same page. Again, him staying here, Nelly Jr. Joseph, during the summer, being able to train, work out, not coming on a visa. He's here, and I thought it was one of the a great win for New Mexico. But I talked to another friend of mine who's coached basketball in Albuquerque for a long time, and he said, hey, let's keep things in perspective. It's one win. They're building the foundation. No need to get overhyped about it. So, and I think he's right, but it's still a great win. So that's my thoughts. And I can't get over the way Donovan Dent played in attacking that pressing defense of UCLA. It was no effect against him, and he was really the catalyst for the Lobos on Friday night.
I come on this show and I harp a lot of let's play defense, and that goes for UNM football and other subjects we talk about. If we get out of not talking about UNM on this UNM athletic centric themed show, by the way, feel free to join the conversation on YouTube and X. And happy Veterans Day to everybody. I forgot about that. For those who served, are still serving, happy Veterans Day. I didn't mean to skip that at the beginning. I've had a busy day. The one thing I will harp at, and you did mention defense. Here you go, Ed. UCLA as a team shot 20 of 55. That's 36.4%. 5 of 23 from 3 for 21.7%. UNM did shoot 51% from the field. One game does not make a season. That's been the MO I've been going to on this show for 2 weeks now. As we geared up for this, I didn't expect them to beat UCLA. I was there. It was in person. It was a great crowd. I have to give it up to Lobo fan. It was very cool to see them travel. Much like us who are, which I don't want to harp on, credentialed with UNM. We have credentials with UNM. And it's not a stroking ego thing here. When I saw the schedule, I was like, okay, I don't know when they're going to have this schedule again. We're going. I have the luxury of being, from, growing up, not being from, but growing up in central New Jersey, not far from Manhattan. I'm going to the game. I fly out Thursday and I'm going to see some family. And I haven't been back to New York, New Jersey since the pandemic, since I moved back, which was pre-pandemic. With that said, I'm rambling and I'm sorry. These 2 games and then VCU. VCU is maybe considered the second or third or first best mid-major, and you can throw UNM in there. I'm getting to my point. I thought if they were able to steal one of these from St. John's or UCLA, it would set up nicely. UCLA's got some work to do. Tyler Bilodeau is a transfer from Oregon State. It's kind of plugging and playing in this era. I don't know if they are necessarily what we thought they would be. They're no longer ranked as of today. For UNM, for this to look like a good win, UCLA has to do something in non-conference and down the stretch. They're in the Big Ten, so their non-conference really doesn't matter. They will make up for it in Big Ten play. Because come maybe end of January, some point in February, if they are playing well, like a Mick Cronin team is expected to do, this win will help them immensely. I am not convinced. I will say it here. This is not me hating on UNM like I normally do. It is very hard to get on a plane and go across country and win in 2 time zones. And it's the same thing sometimes going east to west. I think Sunday is a huge task. I don't necessarily think these guys are intimidated by Madison Square Garden. And why would you be? The Knicks have sucked for 20 years. St. John's is good. They are ranked 22nd in the country. Really didn't get to a point, but winning cures all. And regardless of how big of a talking head I am in this town or how big we are, winning cures all, and it shuts people like me up. I can Monday morning quarterback all I want. I was thoroughly impressed with the way the defense played, the way the offense played, efficient. They are deep, and they are probably better than they are last year. And if you're a regular that listens to the show, you know how I am. I say that every episode. Jamal, and I've said this too, Jamal Mashburn was probably one of my favorite Lobos of all time 2 years ago. This might be a better team than last year. Boise stunk up the joint, stunk up San Francisco on Saturday night. They got housed by USF. They were favored by about a point. It was essentially a pickup. They do not look good. Wish Jacob Neff was on. He's not impressed with them. My Hawaii Rainbow Warriors beat San Jose State last night. I don't think San Jose State's good. But bottom line, I think we all kind of thought, oh, when's the shoe going to fall off? When Dent went down, I think everybody in that stadium and in Albuquerque held their breath. But sorry, this TV just randomly turned on and it scared me. Or my new monitor that I didn't need. I will give it to them. I completely thought they came out, and I've said it. How many times have I said it on this show in 2 years of doing this? They Mike Tyson UCLA. UCLA had a plan until UNM punched them in the mouth. I was impressed. I really was. I thought I was going to get back on the plane Saturday, and they were going to be down. They would have lost by like double digits. I think Donovan Dent is probably, one of the best point guards in the country, and that's saying a lot. Still a lot of work to do. I know I've went on a huge rant, but Ed, you've heard me say it. I am all in on defense, and boy, howdy, did they shut them down. I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
I do. A couple of things, and that's remember Dent was a California basketball player of the year there, and he didn't get an offer from UCLA. So I think he was kind of a little bit hyped up, to play. And he said it afterward. He goes, "Hey, I didn't get an offer." And believe me, when a player like that gets a chip on his shoulder and is motivated, you saw what happened. He was very motivated to show Mick Cronin you made a mistake. The other thing is this: I think sometimes the mystique and the aura of a program, whether it be the Celtics, Lakers, or Yankees in baseball, you're watching the shirt UCLA, right? You're saying, oh, it's UCLA. Hey, what did Alfred say? My wife always brings it up. Hey, it's UCLA, right? It's UCLA. So maybe that you saw the shirts and the jerseys UCLA. Maybe this isn't a great UCLA team, but you know what? It's still UCLA. They beat UCLA on a neutral court. Yeah, I really, again, I think I took the advice of that friend of mine that's coached, been around basketball for a long time. Build a foundation. Let's not go overboard. Let's act like you've been here, right? They've got a lot of work to do. You mentioned it, but I think this is a very good start. And of course, playing in New York on Sunday, and you're right about the Knicks, maybe, but they're better this year. But that's the Mecca, man. That's the Mecca, right? Now, every time I hear a game there, I was telling this guy the other day, when I hear that organ, God, I love that organ, man. I really do. I love to watch a game there, on TV. I wish I could see a live game there. So that's a place when you walk in, that's where New Mexico, the love for New Mexico basketball started in '64. They won an NIT game there in Madison Square Garden, and 3,000 fans were waiting at the airport. So that's where the love started, So New Mexico's got a lot of work to do. You're right. But it certainly was an exciting win. And I think no matter who the opponent, could be UCLA, Sisters of the Poor, whoever, the way they played the game on Friday night was exciting. It had me out of my chair. Look at that move. Look at that. Wow, what a play. It's exciting. They play fast. They rebound. It's an exciting brand of basketball. So if they're going to be playing like that, there's going to be, the thing they're missing is a lot of those rim runs, throw it up to top and boom, whatever. He's gone. There's nothing they can do about that. They're not going to see a lot of a spectacular dunking, things like that. But the way they play, they get easy baskets, transition well from defense into offense for easy buckets. And if they played like that against UCLA, and again, maybe UCLA is not that good, as far as the ranking they had. But still, I don't want to downplay what they did. They beat a good team, and they beat them on the road. And like you mentioned, they've got challenges coming up. They can't act. They've got to meet the challenges if they want to be that tournament team, one step forward, and many more to go.
Ed, I have to ask you this, and we talked about it Friday before the game in Vegas. What kind of deemed it maybe one of the most important games in program history? Now that they've won the game, and again, not talking shit or making a joke, but where do you rank this win? Not tournament wise or anything like that, but regular season wise. I got a stat from CBS that Mick Cronin hadn't lost to an unranked team as I forgot I think it was Cincinnati, and it was Alfred when he beat him at the end of 2012 when Alex Kirk and that went there. I think Cincinnati was 8th in the country. So UNM's not been kind to Mick Cronin. Thank goodness Richard Pitino and Mick Cronin are friends. As far as regular season goes, I've thought about it. UConn in the tournament in 2012, Cincinnati. Where does this rank in your mind with best regular season wins for UNM men's basketball?
I beat number 1 Arizona in 1988.
That one too.
Yeah, that was a big win here. I've got to rank it up there, within the top 5 or top. Yeah, I would rank it up there, but it's so early in the season that, again, you don't want to forget it, but you want to kind of say, okay, that's one. Remember, before the season started last spring, Richard Pitino said, we need to play a tougher schedule. He got, this is the toughest schedule I've ever seen as a Lobo fan. And, I've been a Lobo fan for a long time. So while I want to rank it up there, I don't want to overplay it either, because as one of my friends said, they're building a foundation. It is a big win. It's I don't want to downplay it, somewhere in the middle there, but it is a big regular season win. They've had, I remember when they beat UCLA at Pauley Pavilion in 1983, they beat them here in the preseason NIT in 87, I believe. I remember I was 2 rows from the bottom. I remember that game. And, that was an exciting time. Again, UCLA, you see that across the jersey. And, you think about the Alcindors, the Waltons, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Loves, all the people that have played there. And it's you know what, Ryan? It's a tradition. It's a culture. Now, Mick Cronin's trying to build that there. They haven't won a national championship since, 96. Ben Howland got fired for taking them to 2 Final Fours and not the championship. Steve Alford had some success there with some Sweet 16s, and they fired him. So this is a culture that New Mexico is trying to get to. They're 16-17 last year. They didn't have a great season. You fully expect them to be back in the tournament this year. They didn't have a good night against New Mexico the other night, but you know what? You know what? That was because of New Mexico, and I can't stress that enough. As sometimes as critical as I might be, and my wife says it all the time. She says they won, but we're on this show to break it down. So sometimes I might be overly critical. New Mexico dominated from wire to wire, Give them their flowers, man. They deserve it.
It was very funny, and I want to talk about Nelly Jr. Joseph. He was picked as the Mountain West Conference Player of the Week for what he's done, and he did have a great week. I don't care who he played. When they introduced the teams, they showed UNM's intro video and UCLA's intro video at Lee's Family Forum, or the artist formerly known as the Dollar Loan Center. And they showed UNM, and again, the fans were great. I will never knock that. And they were loud, and I don't know how it sounded on TV, but it was loud in the arena. And there were some.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, there were some UCLA fans. I mean, that's in the middle of, where the two cities are between Los Angeles and Albuquerque. And I jokingly call Albuquerque LA East because of the Dodgers and Lakers fans that are here. So maybe Albuquerque and LA have a little bit more in common. Not a lot, but a little bit of in common than you think. But they showed the UNM intro video, and it was cool, and it gets you hyped up. And again, there is a lot of history to UNM basketball and what it means to this community. Then they showed UCLA's intro video, and it was John Wooden and rest his soul, Bill Walton. And I was like, man, that's it just makes you think. But I wasn't playing, but I was slightly intimidated. But I thought about that, and Ben Howling was at UCLA from 2003 to 2013. He got them to 3 straight Final Fours and he was a national runner-up in 2006 when they lost to Florida. And he got fired. Steve Alford got them to the Sweet 16 in 2014, 2015, and 2017 and got fired. The difference in what expectations are it blows you away. I do, before we give Ned James a call and we go for our first commercial break today, again, feel free to join the conversation on YouTube X. Appreciate everybody watching us. Happy Veterans Day. We're breaking down the UNM UCLA game from Friday night. The Lobos 72-64 win over the Bruins. Ryan Tamori at Nunez. Is Nelly Jr. Joseph. He was Mountain West Conference Player of the Week. And I think he's probably, I know 2 games in, I sound crazy. Could be on his way to, if he continues to play this way, Mountain West Conference Player of the Year. I won't shy away from that conversation, because when you dominate like he has, he had 28-16 against Nichols, and the 28 tied his career high. 16 matched the UNM career high. He had 16 and 12 against UCLA. It's his 45th double-double of his career. It's the 4th most among active Division I players. I have to find the 3 other. And he shot 58% from the field. Everybody on the show, we're in a group text. And you, Rick, all the basketball guys have been incredibly impressed with Nelly Jr. Joseph. Simply put, and then I'll throw it to you, Ed, on what you thought. If this team wins this year, it will be, and this is not, anything out of the extraordinary, Dent and Nelly Jr. Joseph. I don't know if they can really afford to lose either one of them. It's deep. Maybe I'm wrong. But talk about his play and what you've seen out of Nelly Jr. Joseph in the first 2 games.
You know what? I again, against Nicholls State, I was kind of surprised because they started doubling him on the catch now in the post, and then they went to single coverage. He destroyed them. He's much stronger than I thought he was. And I think he had a good season last year, but kind of overshadowed by the freshman of the year, JT Toppin. And maybe we didn't appreciate him enough. Maybe I overlooked him. And, if you got a coach like Richard Pitino, who's been around the game for a long, long time, has been around his dad, and he's saying he's one of the best bigs in the country, I think that tells you a lot. So he's getting deep post catches. He's finishing. He's rebounding. He's a force in there. The other thing is I neglected to mention, Ryan, he's drawn how many fouls. He drew how many fouls against Nicholls State. He drew a lot of fouls against UCLA. Bilodeau was guarding him one-on-one. I like Bilodeau a lot. I do think he's a good player. But one thing my wife noticed, too, she said, look at him. at the free throw line, he's like this. Nelly wore him out, man. Nelly wore him out. Believe me when I tell you, I played inside, man. Rick's played inside. It's a wrestling match. You know, to deny position, ride him up the lane, try to work and get him out of position. Nelly has gotten sweet post position. Now I'm going to tell you this. I would think even starting tomorrow night, there's going to be a different coverage of him. They're going to have to start doubling him in the post, but he's a decent enough passer to pass back out. So it's a double-edged sword. So I've been very impressed with what he's done. And remember, him being here all summer and working and training and lifting and being a second year in the program, I don't know that I expected that much from him. But now he's like you mentioned, him and Donovan Dent, as they go, so goes New Mexico. Amzil, let's not forget on him. He had a really good game. I thought he hit some timely threes, rebounded. But if you're talking about New Mexico and what makes them go, it's Donovan Dent first, because that guy's the key, has the keys to the team, and then it's Mustafa. I'm sorry, it's Nelly Jr. Joseph.
Well, they didn't shoot like shit from three like they did Nicholls State. I didn't understand what that was. I thought if they were going to do that all year, we were in for a very bad season. They went 6 of 15 from three. Amzil went 2 of 4. I will take that all day. 3 of 7 from the field. He had 8 points. It seemed very, very timely what he did. But I don't know. I was really, again, the naysayer here. I was really impressed by the Lobos.
Real quick point. Point. Secco and Applehans came in and took shot with confidence, aggressive. He wasn't. He didn't hesitate. You got to look. Boom, hit it. Secco off a dish by Nolan, scores. So I think they made timely buckets. Guys that went into the game contributed, and that wasn't always the case last year. Jamal Baker had come in as a highly touted 3-point shooter, never really got going. But I think on Friday night, Applehans, if we need, that's all you need him. And I think Mackenzie Bishop had said that. Get him in, let him shoot about 3 or 4 threes. He came in and contributed. So did Secco. He came in, a nice bucket. So the guys that came in off the bench contributed and stayed within their lane. What I mean by that is they didn't get the ball and say, I got to score. I need to do this. They played within the team and the flow, and it was beautiful. You don't get that all the time, by the way. When you're a coach, you're like, man, why can't we play like that all the time? It doesn't work like that, but it sure did on Friday night.
Yeah, no, I mean, it seemed like again, I didn't play. I don't know the X's and O's of it. It seemed like a very valiant team effort. And, Ed, I'm going to go on a limb here because I am, they, I always say the Lobo fan acted like they won the World Cup or the Super Bowl when they came back from Vegas only to get shellacked by Clemson. And I said stupidly that I thought, well, if they played Clemson 10 times, they might win 5. That's probably incorrect last year. I've covered UNM athletics on and off for over 15, 16 years now. And there is part of me now that would like for once to just, because I love the history of stuff, to see them make a run in the tournament. I thought the year in 2013, they were probably one of the best teams in the West region. And you can have every conspiracy theory you want. They didn't play well against Harvard, and they got beat. Stanford got them. I think this team might be special, but again, one game does not make a season. I will stand by that.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, it's fair enough. I think just the way the schedule has lined up, you don't have to worry about necessarily, I think, beating St. John's. You have beat UCLA again. They could shit the bed and not win another game. They play Boston University. It's tonight or tomorrow night. They'll probably beat them. It's at Pauley Pavilion. But I thought 2 of 3 from VCU. Arizona State played Gonzaga. Incredibly tough. You get them. I saw them play right before against Santa Clara. Santa Clara is supposed to be good. ASU beat them. This schedule, for as much crap as I talk, My hat's off to Richard Pitino for this schedule, and you're 2-0 to start the season. But then again, let's talk at the end of February and the beginning of March. My opinion might be different. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Ed and I will be joined by the one, the only former UNM quarterback and one of the voices on the Lobo Radio Network with Lobo Football, Mr. Ned James. This is the Pit Press Live.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. My name is Ryan Tamori, joined by the one, the only, the voice of New Mexico, Western New Mexico, and a Lobo fan since 1970, Mr. Ed Nunez. We don't have an advertiser for the phone line, so I'm going to refrain from my terrible joke. But we go to the phone line, and we are joined by a former quarterback for the University of New Mexico, and you can catch him on pregame, postgame, halftime analysis with one JJ Buck during Lobo football games. His name is Mr. Ned James. Ned, how you doing today?
Hey, doing great, guys. How are you guys doing?
We are hanging in there. I thought I tried to watch as much of the football game as I could on my laptop at the basketball game. You have to be happy they went on the road and got a win. But I mean, we continuously talk about him, seems like week in and week out right now, is Eli Sanders. He had 2 long touchdown runs, 16 carries, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns. Can you talk about his performance?
Yeah, it was a great performance, but I still believe you got it wrong. JJ Buck was right about me. He said, Ned, 7 years ago, that I was the only person in New Mexico that really cares about football. Because everybody else doesn't really care about football. They care about basketball. You guys paid attention to basketball and not football, which was a great double win for the state of New Mexico. I gave all buddies in California a very, very hard time, so nobody's speaking to me in Los Angeles for the next couple of weeks because the state of New Mexico is 2 against the state of California, with the Lobos beating San Diego State and Lobo basketball beating the UCLA Bruins, which is their pride and joy down there. But I digress because I just stand the fact that people are talking basketball and it's not February. I think football should front and center until February. But Eli Sanders, great rushing. They had over 300 rushing, and so that was great. Devin Dampier is the magician. He's just absolutely fantastic. Those two runs really critical. And Bronco spoke to Eli Sanders being able to run and make those two big runs because, the field. I mean, you texted me a little bit about the concern with the and they said it was just terrible. The surface, the playing surface. Head coach for San Diego State, Lewis, embarrassed by the surface, and the fact that they have this beautiful stadium and they can't get the surface right was bad for everybody. So I guess when Eli got out there, because the terrain wasn't so good, those guys were sliding. He was able to get momentum, and those guys couldn't get their footing, and so he was off to the races times, and it led to over 300 yards rushing. But that doesn't really say both had to deal with it. But I thought just the fact that Devin Dampier probably played one of the best games of the year, in my opinion. No turnovers, 67% of his passes, 129 yards rushing himself, took a brunt of the heavy lifting in the run game. The guy's touching the ball 44 times a game. I mean, he's just, you're talking about a guy who's arguably one of the most productive quarterbacks in the country. And I'm looking forward to a great game this Saturday because of the fact that we're able to run the ball. When you're able to run the ball, you always have a chance to win as long as you don't turn it over. And so I think that being said, the fact that Eli Sanders is really after it in the run game, when he was the third string, back to first string, then he went to third string, now he's back to first string, and he's really doing a good job. And they're really up in that running back room. Only saw one other carry from another running back, the Chargers. Peters didn't even play, so it's just one of those things where these guys are just ripping it up. We just hope they just keep this momentum going.
You mentioned Devin Dampier and the game he had. It wasn't probably as flashy as his other ones, and I did not coach in the NFL, but I love talking to you, Ned. But when I look at a box score and I see no interceptions, 16 of 24, 7.3 yards a carry, he only threw for 175, but at that point, I don't think I care, and the one touchdown. I know you said it was his best game. Would you maybe consider that his most efficient game of the year?
Probably his most efficient. One of the things you realize that this was a really good defensive for our defense. I mean, the fact that, I know the kid freshman quarterback they're going up against, and they did some challenging things. I always watch the special teams and penalties and some of the little, games, hidden yardage stuff within the game. And that was really telling. But most telling is that San Diego State 99 offensive plays. That's a lot of stinking plays, a lot of plays, probably almost 30 more than the average number of plays you run. And they only scored 6 points. And so you have to give the defense some credit from that standpoint of holding them out of the end zone. And the running back, who they thought was going to really get off to a good game, they just kept giving it to the young man. He didn't really break off long runs. And so we were able to bend but not break defense, which I thought was really helpful in winning this game, a game that on the road that, Washington State only beat them by a touchdown. So really not, something that, San Diego State really good, not a really good defense, but a pretty decent defense. And so I thought, the fact that, we were able to turn it over, it would have been 28-16, but Bud dropped a layup in the end zone that fourth quarter that was just an absolute layup that I thought maybe he was trying to think about his dance moves before the ball got there. I love the kid, but it was just unfortunate that that really easy pass in the end zone that I'm sure he's still squirming about today. But the defense really played well, and I thought Tim Beck is doing a good job of play calling. Ryan Davis is playing well in the absence of Luke Weissong was playing, but he just was really out there as moral support. He really couldn't get going, but he did did the best he could, and I really felt like that was just the key to the game. I mean, just Damp is just not getting sacked. He got sacked once, I think, and then the fact that he's able to avoid the rush, and then he just turned the ball over. he completed a high percentage of his passes, and so that's a recipe for win. And in most cases, Coach really does a good job of shoring up things that they've had problems with the following week. But he's going to have to shore it up pretty tight this week because Washington State's going to be a tough test for him.
Ed, I'll throw it over to you.
You know what, Ned? I thought they even got a sack. I thought they sacked the San Diego State quarterback at least once, and they don't get a lot of pressure up front. They've had a blitz to create that pressure, but I think you're right. That defense, it did. They played pretty well, and San Diego State, they held them at bay. But you mentioned Devin Dampier. That's the key. No turnovers. But coming into a game against Washington State, who scores a lot of points, you honestly believe that New Mexico has a pretty decent chance if they can run the ball. And the way they ran the ball on Saturday, they ran it really well. So you think New Mexico has a good chance on Saturday?
Oh yeah, I always think if you can run the ball and you play decent defense and special teams, you got a chance if you don't turn the ball over. Now, so here's the thing that people aren't looking at. I mean, I know everybody's kind of rolling their eyes when I say a chance to win this Saturday because we've got this Pac-12 team rolling in here, the 8-1 or 9-1 record. I think it's 8-1, right? Not 9-1. I think they've only played 9 games, so it's 8-1. They're rolling in here with the top 22 ranking, 21st in the country or something like that. And so they're expected to just come in here and just run roughshod over this team. Well, here's a little bit of a problem that they have. This team, they're ranked 113th. We're 131st in defense. They're on our heels as far as defense. They're not as tight as they are on offense on defense. So if you can move the ball again and you can keep the game close, you got a chance. And with our quarterback, and hopefully we get some guys back, the guys that have been banged up, and they can play an inspired game at home, hopefully in front of a good crowd, because I think it's going to kind of get a little bit of expectation, with this team because of the dual win Friday night. I mean, most people were floating in the weekend with us beating UCLA in basketball and then us winning in football. So I think they really do have a chance with that defense at Washington State being, as tight as the offense. Now, their offense is rolling on all cylinders. If you're a fan of football, I don't care if you look at Yaffle, high school, college, if you're an NFL fan, you need to come and watch this game. You're talking about two of the top offensive producing quarterbacks in the country. Dampier and Batier are 5 and 6 in the country in total offense in the entire country. I mean, there ain't a guy at Georgia, ain't a guy at Tennessee or Texas or Michigan or USC. It's Washington State quarterback and the University of New Mexico quarterback. I mean, you got a University of New Mexico quarterback that's going to possibly be a 1,000-yard rusher and a 3,000-yard passer. Now, that's unheard of in college sports. I mean, there have been a couple great Heisman Trophy type players that have achieved those numbers, but you got a sophomore quarterback here that's staring at those numbers. And that's without a bowl game. I mean, if they was next two, they get in a bowl game, then he'll really shatter those. But he can get to those numbers despite not even being in a bowl game. So it's a really an opportunity to watch two exciting players. And as I said, Ed, you can't turn the ball over. You can run the ball. This is not a great defense. This is a team that's a 8-1 team, but they lost to their only loss came to a Mountain West team, to Boise State. So this is a team that's, you can beat them, even though they have this record of only one loss. It's just a matter of if you get the right opportunities and you capitalize. You can't drop layups in the end zone like against San Diego State. You're going to have to make sure, you're able to kind of take advantage of every opportunity. And, you got to have a little luck, part of the game. So I'm looking forward to the game. I think it's going to be an exciting game. You got two premier quarterbacks. You got two defenses that, are getting beat up on because they haven't really necessarily done great all the time. Hence the rankings. But at the same time, you just never know what's going to happen. So I'm looking forward to it.
Ned, you mentioned Devin Dampier, Eli Sanders. They both played really well. You mentioned Wysong. I'll ask you this in a minute. He was out there probably more as a decoy, not really able, probably not 100% yet, but still went out there. I think got 4 grabs. Michael Buckley, a tough drop in the end zone there. That was tough. That was tough. The kid's I know has been looking for more playing time, and he'll get another chance. He'll make the catch the next time. Was there anybody else that I know Avenger's played pretty well on defense? Was there anybody else on defense that stood out to you on Friday night?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Randolph Kapai, he plays every snap, and he's always he led the team in tackles. But he the fact that he's out there 99 snaps. You got guys who are in the ice tub, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You're taking some licks. I mean, and them boys were scrapping it up there because San Diego State had to run the ball because they got that young quarterback, and they were really trying to, just out physical UNM, and Kapai playing in that role, a guy who wasn't really even initially a starter, and then now eventually they've moved him into the starting role. He and Demetri Johnson, and they were swapping licks now with those boys from San Diego State, which they kind of pride themselves on being physical, and they were physical with Washington State, who barely got them beat, and then they beat Wyoming, who we lost to. So, this was a tough game. It really was. I was really proud of the guys just hanging in there to the end, and the fact that they didn't get rattled when something bad happened. They didn't get rattled because the field was in terrible shape. They just kind of persevered, and it's just a testament of what this team has become this season. But it all starts with the quarterback, and like Randolph Kapai and those guys on defense, and Moso, the nose tackle. Those guys really did a good job, I thought, of handling the run game. The one thing they did do that I thought, despite having that many plays on D, that's a lot of snaps, 99 snaps, that's a lot of snaps, is that they didn't give up the big one. And I always talk to, when JJ and I do the pregame show, I'm like, hey, you got to limit the big plays. And if you can do that, then you have a chance to survive. But if they get too many of those big plays, they start spreading you out and getting you kind of caught up in things that you shouldn't be, getting caught up in, and tricking you and getting big plays on you. It's going to be a tough night. So I'm just hoping that this weekend that we're able to play as tight as we played this past week. It's going to start with the running back, but their quarterback, I should say, is a lot like our quarterback. So Kapai and Demetri Johnson, they're going to have to be on their piece, because this guy can run a little like Devin Dampier, not quite as elusive and fast, but he can run the ball, and they have plays where he's running triple option and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see. This should be an exciting game to watch. We haven't had a lot of fans out at the game, so this would be a game, if you were a fan of football, you really should come out and see.
One more question, Ryan. I'll turn it over to you. I thought Nick Trujillo made a great catch when the Lobos needed a big play. I think he's made the most out of his opportunities. They've come and gone. They've had him in, and sometimes he doesn't get as many opportunities, but thought he made a big play when they needed a big play. Were you surprised with the field and the shape of the way it was, and Wysong's ankle, being the way it is? Were you surprised that he played?
No, I figured that they were going to try to, kind of bring him in slowly, because they really like what he brings to the table, and they really think that people kind of pay attention to him. Trujillo, he's just a young player. He's going to get better. He's out there. The more you play, the better you're going to get. And, he's starting to kind of come around a little bit. I think he was a little nervous, early on in the year. I think he's kind of, as the season's gone on, he's gotten a little bit more comfortable with his role and the opportunities that he has to play. Now he's going to have to get a little bit stronger. He's going to have to get bigger and stronger, because he just kind of gets ragdolled a little bit sometimes. But he's still a young player. He can develop. That was a big catch that on the fade, the comeback. He came back and made the big catch. But the guy who's still kind of holding this whole thing together, is making the clutch catches, is that Ryan Davis. He's really kind of solidified himself as kind of a go-to guy with Medford and Wysong, really kind of being beat up, and Trujillo's just not quite ready yet. Ryan Davis is the guy I've seen, and maybe you've seen something else. I don't know, but he's kind of the guy that I think that Dampier is really kind of starting to become more comfortable with as the season goes on, because he's the most dependable, I think, from a maturity standpoint.
Okay, you didn't totally steal my thunder there, Ed, with the
Oh,
field.
sorry, Ryan.
No. I was happy. I was like, okay. Ned, in all of your years around football, have you ever seen a field look like that much of a pile of crap?
Well, you being from the East Coast should know better. And that Philadelphia field that tortured those Giants
Yes.
players for years in the old Philadelphia. What's the
Veteran
old
Stadium?
called? Veteran Stadium, yeah, the old Veteran Stadium. I mean, I coached the NFL game with the Ravens, where the guys refused to play. We refused to play a preseason game because the field was so. And it's before the new field they built, new stadium they built in Philadelphia. But yeah, I mean, this was bad. This was but and Bronco mentioned it during the press conference today. He said, it was bad for both teams, and that's how you really got to distract guys from, if something's bad like that, you got to take their attention off of that, because you got to go play a game. They weren't going to cancel the game, so you got to go play. And so, it's like, when you're a kid, you had to wait for the cars to come by when you were playing in the streets. Here comes a car, let's get out. And then you go back in the streets and you play on asphalt. So, I mean, it's unfortunate. Division I football, brand new stadium like that stadium is. It's a beautiful stadium. And for the field to be as in poor condition as it was, it's just unfortunate. But the guys persevered, and it's just one of those things. It's in sport. You just have to adjust, and that's a part of the game. It's you got to either adjust, adapt, or you're not going to win. So, and I think our guys did a good job of adapting to it. We were slipping, they were slipping, and eventually, the conference is probably going to find them or something, and they'll get it fixed. But in the meantime, we came out of there with a W. I thought that was the most important thing. I thought the kids were resilient. I thought, boy, I talked to JJ throughout the game. I kept saying, there's just no way this freshman quarterback can beat us. I'm like, if we could just, and I thought the University of New Mexico defensive coordinator and head coach had a good plan on stopping the run and not giving up the big runs. That was the key. The quarterback I didn't think could beat us, but I thought if they ripped off some big runs, and then hey, now we're worried about the run, they play action you and they hit you over the top, then I thought they could beat us. But if the guy was just dropping back throwing, I really didn't think they could beat us. And that's I think that's kind of what the coaches thought, and that's how they played. And we were fortunate enough to get the win as a result.
How would you? Last question about UNM football, and we're joined by former UNM quarterback Ned James. You can catch him on the Liberal Radio Network. How would you assess this season? I know we have a combined 27 points come back on the Lobos. They sit at 4-6. There are 2 opportunities to get to 500. If you split, you're not, but 5-7. With 2 games to go, Ned, how would you assess how this season has gone?
Well, here's the thing, and I thought, my personal opinion, because of the collectives and the NILs, there's this thing out there that no one really knows, because there's no disclosure on what players are making. Every guy on UNM's team could be making 50, 60, 70, 100,000, but we don't know. No one knows. No one knows how much money the guys are making at San Diego State or at Boise or at Colorado State or what have you. And so with that being said, to me, you got to be able to win every year, because it's all about who's got the players. You got to pay to play. You got to pay guys in order for you to be successful. So to be every year, you have to have, you have to win at least, 6 games. But with that being said, this team came in before the season, because it was a new staff, because it was 61 new players. They were expected and predicted in Vegas to win 1 game, 1.5 games, and they far exceeded that with having 4 wins and the possibility to even win more. And so with that, then the expectations are the expectations. Now, moving forward, I still think that you should be able to win, especially with the quarterback that we have, more games than you lose. And this was, and they everybody's saying it in there. Hey, there were a couple games that we let get away that shouldn't have gotten away from us. And with that being said, we'd be probably be sitting at 6 wins right now already. I think this staff came in with some great expectations to win, and it's proven that they really did have the assets and the wherewithal that they were going to be able to achieve that. And but unfortunately, they had the tough loss to Montana State, the Wyoming game. All those things were ones that they let slip away. But yet and still, they have an opportunity to get to 500. And so, with that being said, I mean, for them, it has to be, somewhat a positive outcome from what the expectations were, particularly with the fact that they weren't expected to win but a few games, being their first year here. But they far exceeded that.
All right, I got to ask you about your boy Baker with that play yesterday where he was shoving Nick Bosa with one arm on 4th and 7 and made the play, and Tampa went down and tied the game. You always tell me you like Baker. I think you coached him, and you mentioned he's a gamer. I've always liked Baker. Did you see that play? And if you did, what were your thoughts?
No, Baker's the one thing about Baker, only thing I didn't like about Baker, I thought he was a little entitled, snot-nosed kid, kind of came from a little bit of money. And so you can be a little bit entitled sometimes, and that won't help you in that NFL. But the one thing I always liked about him was, number one, he was a tough guy. He really was tough, and he's smart, and he worked hard. He worked really hard. He would, everybody would be going in. He'd be doing extra gassers, working out, and the public persona of him and what he actually was were really two different things. And he tried to play into it a little bit, and that was just his immaturity as a young person. Those guys will do that sometimes. He played into the whole, almost like the Johnny Manziel image in some regards, like he was this, persona, to get commercial, access and be famous or what have you. And he learned quickly that, that stuff will backfire on you. But I always liked his work ethic, just being in the quarterback room with him, and I would tell guys here, I talked to JJ because he was the one who was asking me, because I thought LeBar was better than him in college and some of those things. But the one thing about Baker was, I said, when I was up there in Cleveland with him, I said, the guy works hard. Like he really was a hard worker, and he was very studious. Because I'd be in the quarterback, I was working with receivers, but I would spend half the time in the quarterback rooms with him. But I would watch him in the quarterback rooms because he was a rookie, and we had veteran guys in there with I can't think of the kid's name that was starting. He was from Buffalo, but we had two veteran starters, and I would watch Baker because he was the first overall pick, just to see, if what he brought to the table. In the way that he handled playing that position in the NFL. And the guy was studious. He took copious notes. He wasn't, drawing pictures when he was taking notes. He was taking copious notes in the meetings. He was a tough guy in practice. He practiced hard. He worked his body. He took care of himself physically. And those are all the traits that you want in a quarterback. And that's why I always said that. I mean, I always liked him because of that. And, you could always talk to him, and he would talk to you about football, and he understood it. He actually would learn exactly how you wanted it done and would do it the way you wanted it. So those are all things that I thought were, kind of elements for a quarterback to be successful. Now, he had the height issue, but he's always had the height issue. And in the NFL now, with these RPO guys that come out of college, these little, I call them Lilliputins or Oompa Loompas or short guys, they're able to manage these games, even at that height. I told JJ asked me about Kyler Murray coming out. And I said, I had to tell him my Doug Flutie story. When I was coaching in New Orleans with the Saints, I called Doug Flutie every Oompa Loompa, Lilliputtin name you could call it, a little short quarterback. And he put 42 points on us like it wasn't nothing when he was in Buffalo. But he had Eric Moulds as the receiver. But I thought, man, and I said, I'll never talk bad about a short quarterback again. Because I thought there was no way he could beat us in New Orleans. And Flutie came out and did the number on us. And so that's why I explained to JJ how, because everybody was down on Kyler Murray when the Cardinals drafted Kyler Murray with the first overall pick. And I had to tell him my Doug Flutie story. That's what JJ kind of was convinced that these short guys could play. And that's what Baker is. He's a short guy. But the short guys, and I'm kind of segueing into what we do and what we're going to see on Saturday. We've got a short quarterback in Devin Dampier. We got a little, and so it must be the age of the little man at quarterback time in the NFL and college and everywhere else, because all these short quarterbacks now are productive now in both college and in the pros.
His name is Mr. Ned James. He's a former quarterback for UNM. You catch him on the Lobo Radio Network. Pre-halftime post-game with JJ Buck. 2 games left, but Ned, don't be fooled. I had the opportunity to go to the UCLA game, so I did, and I'm going to St. John's this week, but I love college basketball, but man, do I love college football. So to talk to you every week about it, really, really appreciate it. Probably bug you next week to talk about Washington State. And I'm bummed I'm going to have to watch this game all the way from Central New Jersey at 9:30 at night. So I'll be up late.
Have fun doing that, man.
I will.
Yeah.
His name is Mr. Ned James. Ned, thanks for joining us as always.
Thank you guys for having me.
All right. Ned. That was Mr. Ned James. Ed, you were, and forgive me, I love both of you. And every time I'm just like, I forget to call you. I think I call you Ned. I call him Ed. I don't do it on purpose, but you were able to watch the game. I wanted your thoughts on what you saw from the UNM football team. I caught glimpses of it. Jacob Neff did text me about the drop pass, which I still haven't seen. I need to go see it. I know it was a gimme. I didn't know the whole play, but just your thoughts on what you took away from the UNM football team.
Eli Sanders, Jacobs has been hurt, and Rick always calls, him and Sanders the nail, the hammer, and then, the nail, and then Dampier's the hammer. But Jacobs, those 2 long runs really changed the momentum. He got out in space, and once he was out in space, that was it. Good blocking at the line of scrimmage, burst into secondary, and I thought that changed the tone of the game. I think, you know what? When you listen to Ned, who's coached at the NFL level, he talks about hidden yards. He talks about things sometimes that I didn't get or I didn't understand, but then I'll be like, okay, I get what he's saying. So the turnovers is what he said last week about Dampier. It wasn't the defense so much, but you can't turn the ball over. He didn't. No, Michael Buckley's he's a walk-on. It was tough drop because it's right there in the end zone. 40-yard pass, hit him right there. And he dropped it. Nobody feels worse about it than he does. He'll once he gets another chance, he'll catch it. No doubt. That would have sealed it. I got a little nervous though because he dropped it. They got the ball back, and they had a long way to go, and the UNM's defense rose to the occasion. But so I think I go with Ned. They made some good plays in the running game. Wysong was out there probably more as a decoy than anything else. That ankle's not 100%. It won't be for a while. Hopefully by Saturday, he's 80, 85%. They need him. But I wish I could go out there Saturday. I can't. I got to be somewhere with my wife, and no problem there. I love being with my wife, but my son's going to be there too. And my son was saying he's going to have the game on the phone, and my wife was like, "Nope, Knicks can't do that." But we'll figure out a way. But I promise you to find out the score. We will, and we'll tape the game. But when Ned is saying he thinks they have a good chance, I'm excited. I'm pumped. Where is the season? You asked him where, remember that we were in Las Vegas. You said this when we were at Mountain West Conference football. They're picked to, you said this, you wrote it to be down to be when we were interviewing somebody, 1.5 games.
Game and a half.
Yeah. They're predicted to win. They're at 4 with, darn it, a good chance to have probably won 5, maybe 6. Those 2 games with Montana State and Wyoming, they let them get away. That's the way it is. Can't go back. There's no revisionist history. That's the way it is. You are what your record is. That's it. And although I wish I could, you hear people say that all the time. Well, they shoulda, woulda, shoulda, coulda. You didn't. Period. Bottom line. But they are, they're here on the cusp of, can they beat one? Washington State scores points in a bundle. But with Ned saying that their defense isn't that good, UNM's got a chance. I think they've got a real chance. And then they've got Hawaii. And if this is a big if, they finish 6-6 and got to the New Mexico Bowl, what would people say? Now, the other thing, crowd at 7:30, most of the games have been, I can't remember the last time they had a night game. Last year, Utah State, I believe. most of their games?
No, they played because they did a couple of things in this, for the light show earlier this year.
Oh, that's right.
But I can't remember a game kicking off after dark. I can't.
So I'll predict the crowd. I hope there's 28. I'm going to say more like 17. They'll announce more like 14. That's my prediction. We'll see. Again, that's just my prediction. And hopefully there's more. That people go out there. And it's kind of funny that Ned, who I love to death, Ned's my guy, man. But football should be front and center. But I guarantee one thing about him, he's telling his guys in LA, hey man, he's from LA, East LA, man. He's saying, hey, the Lobos kicked your butt. So he's definitely telling his guys on that end. So that's just my thoughts about what he said in the game on Saturday night. A big win. New Mexico hadn't beat San Diego State since beating them 70-7 in 2008. So it's a huge win. And look, they're getting better. They're not quite there. They've got work to do. And the biggest thing is, and it's the elephant in the room, and nobody wants to talk about it. I get it. But it's, can they keep Devin Dampier? Can they keep him here? And I got to say this. I talked to a friend of mine today. Saw a lot of people today. Saw a friend of mine at the gym. And I said, it's going to probably take, a lot of money. He goes, you know what? They have to keep him. It's a foundation piece because if they finish with any kind of momentum, they go 6-6, let's just say that, and they lose that guy. And, so people are going to be like, well, if he comes back, there's excitement. You sell tickets around that. They've got to keep him. They've got to keep him. They have to try. They have to try to keep him. And the price is not going to be cheap. People are, speculating. This is speculation, $500,000 to $1 million. Can they keep everybody else? That's the question. But if they finish strong like that, you've got to give it your best shot and to try to keep them. That's the way I see it.
I did not know that. Sorry, I broke my ring light to everybody watching. I got to fix what I'm doing. I'm doing a makeshift job right now, so I probably look weird. And then I've got the light on at the bottom, but I don't want to look completely dark. Wait, you said that San Diego State, they hadn't beaten San Diego State since 2008.
Right. Yeah.
I was at that game. That was one of my first games at the paper. I remember
70-7. Yeah.
I didn't know that was the last time they beat them, but that's a game that I'm
pretty sure.
They killed them. I've got that's like one of my first articles at the Daily Lobo, and I've got it framed.
Would you mind sending that to me? I'd love to read it. Yeah.
I will. Yeah. Well, it probably wasn't the best because I was learning how to write, and my good friend Isaac Avalusea probably hacked the hell out of it. Not that I'm a better writer than I was. I'm going to miss the Washington State game. As much as I love college basketball, my love is college football. I'm a little bummed I'm missing this game, but again, I don't know when the opportunity would have for me to cover a game as what I pursued in Madison Square Garden. So I'm going, and I got the roots there, so I'm going. But I wanted to throw this out there because of the way New Mexico State, the way Washington State and UNM score. The over-under is 72.5. I think that's what it opened up. This is Action Network. UNM is 6-4 against the spread this year. That's impressive. And then they opened up, I believe, at circa 14-point underdogs. The consensus is now 13 on Action Network. That gives you the consensus. 72.5 is a lot. That John Mateer is a great quarterback. Him and Devin, I've watched a few of their games this year because they've played on Friday nights. Again, not an X's and O's guy. I could be wrong. They're spitting images of each other. But
that's going to be a heck of a game.
I know. I'm a little bummed I'm missing it. We will do about an hour pregame show. I haven't figured out when tomorrow, either 4 or 5. UNM takes on the UNM men's basketball team, takes on my Texas A&M Corpus Christi Highlanders that I love. For 2 years, they were a money-making machine. I absolutely love them. Scored a lot of points, and they kind of gave Alabama a hard time 2 years ago in the first round. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at the Pit. You can listen on the Lobo Radio Network. You can watch on the Mountain West Network, or you can buy a ticket and go to the game. I sound like a completely different person, but maybe buy a ticket and go to the football game because the basketball team just beat UCLA, and UNM's playing a top 20 ranked team that has a phenomenal offense on the field. They are fun to watch. I understand this isn't Georgia. This isn't Texas. This isn't Vanderbilt. Hey, by the way, game cocked. They got killed. They got blasted by South Carolina on Saturday in Nashville, 28-7. So they are now 6-4. Before we get out of here, I just want to read some comments. I will go to Jimmy H. The hammer will fall Sunday. New York St. John's will be the nail. I'm pretty convinced of that as well. If you caught the whole episode, Roy Archuleta, hard for an out of towner to give the Lobos their flowers in any sport. I don't know what that means. Not sure. But they won, so I don't know what you want us to do. Ice Baby, they were only supposed to win. I believe you meant supposed to win one game. Yes, it was a game and a half. Some places I think had two. Hates the Lobos. I don't know if I necessarily hate the Lobos.
Where's Eric Markham been? Welcome back.
I
Roy
know.
Archuleta, welcome to the show, man. Now sorry, Ryan. We don't
Go ahead.
always agree with everybody, but thank you for listening. Eric, man, we missed you. Glad you're back. Sorry, go ahead.
No, everybody hates me. Everybody hates Chris. Everybody hates me. I'm not going to tell the story about why I'm bitter towards UNM. You can Google my name and you can Google my name and the current head coach at Maryland, which apparently I probably should see a therapist about because I've never let it go.
But I got to say one thing, Ryan.
Go ahead,
you
Ed.
know what? You're my guy, man. You're a good friend of mine too. And the other night when we talked, I was so jealous that you're at the game. I was happy for you. After the game, you said, "Hey, I'm impressed, man." So you don't hate the Lobos. You don't. You do not hate them. I understand some of the feelings you have. You and I have talked at length, but you don't hate them. You're just not probably like a huge, dumb fan like me who's always thinking, that's me. Glass is always half full, except now with my Cowboys, I'm resigned to the fact that they are terrible. They suck. They probably will win if they're lucky, maybe 2 more games. All the people that wanted Cooper Rush to start yesterday, that's what you got, right? That's what you got now. So anyway, sometimes I'm overly optimistic and get mad when my teams win, but I don't think you hate UNM at all. I don't, but
I defend the pit on the East Coast. Here's my one Dallas Cowboy shot. Where is it? Boy, for as shitty as the New York Football Giants are, they're not the first team in NFL history to trail by 20 points in 5 straight home games. That belongs to the one, the only Dallas Cowboys.
Pain right through my heart, man. Pain.
Yeah. I insulted the Mountain West Conference tournament rings. It pissed me off. I don't remember if I insulted them. I guess I did. I don't remember specifically insulting them. I know I have mentioned that the fans have acted like winning the Mountain West championship was like, the Republic defeating the Empire at the end of Return of the Jedi. And then you proceed 4 days later to get your bent over by an ACC team and you were favored against them. That's my comment. No political talk. I'm steering away from that.
Thank God, man. This ain't no political show, man.
No, it's not a political show.
Never has been, never will be. Thank God.
Yeah, I know I've made a joke. What I was going to say on the record for somebody, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm turning into the Grinch when he turns good. I was going to text him. I don't know if he's watching. I will. And I do mean this because what I try to say on this show, I mean. Wyoming was my last home football game this year to cover. I will not be at Washington State. As I've mentioned, I'm a little bummed about. So to Frank Mercogliano, the SID, I know I have ripped you apart on this show and talked so much shit. I think we all need to be checked and balanced, and that includes myself. I have a mother, I have a child, I have these guys, and I have a significant other that she checks me, and she's a pain in my ass, much like I'm a pain in her ass. But thank you for all the insight and putting up with us. Really, really appreciate it, I guess, and putting up with me. Because when I have asked questions, you have answered them. So much appreciated. Do like that. And to all of our listeners, again, we're embarking on 2 years of doing this, so we do appreciate you. I just don't let things sports-wise boil my blood like they used to 15 years ago. I've only been really mad once in a long time, and it was at the Atlanta Falcons and the Seattle Seahawks about 2 weeks ago because I couldn't pick one of their games right. Jimmy H, I'll get you flowers. If you've ever seen, is it Ghostbusters or Ghostbusters 2? I'm going to get you flowers. Hey, we're going to come to you live tomorrow night before Texas A&M, Corpus Christi. UNM returns home. They are then on the road at St. John's in Midtown Manhattan. I will be there for that. I'm very excited. And one thing I wanted to mention, there is a bar on West 33rd and Broadway and 7th Ave called Stout. There is where UNM alumni is meeting prior to the game. I'm just going to go because I know people going to the game. So I'm throwing it out there. If you Google UNM alumni, go check that out. We've reposted that, but if you are in the tri-state area or on the East Coast or just going to the game, flying from Albuquerque, check that out. And I think if you just Google UNM Alumni Association, but the name of the bar on West 33rd, on 33rd is Stout. And it is literally, I Googled it. I'm not familiar with every little bar in that area. I know what street it is. You go the street over 34th is obviously, the world famous Macy's. But if you literally like walk out of Penn Station or you take a cab to the Garden, it is to your northeast. And if you've gone to 34th and Macy's, you've gone too far. It's the next street over. I think there actually might be a Target across the street, and I've been in that Target many a time. But again, UNM Alumni Association, check it out. The name of the bar is Stout. That is a pregame get-together for UNM alumni prior to the I said UNM a lot in that last sentence, St. John's game. For Ed Nunez, Jacob Neff, Eric Malton, Nick Nunez, and I didn't have him on the show today. Ricky Thompson, happy birthday to him. He's in Hawaii. Happy he was able to join us. Everybody have a good Monday. Enjoy the games tonight. We will talk to you tomorrow prior to Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Have a good Monday night.